But I love my wife, you know, at 25 years, it's hard to believe, but yeah, that's where we're at. And I think that what amazes me is the past couple of years that we've lived through. I mean, they said that we were either going to have a ton of divorce in this country or like a ton of babies. And that totally made sense because we were either fighting all the time or we were having sex. It was like one or the other, right? And things got really kind of interesting when we like combined the two, and that's when things got kind of freaky. Yeah, and you know, but I think it was harder for single people. I really do, especially my buddy Mitch. I mean, Mitch, he's got needs. He's got needs, man. And, you know, and I was like, you know, they came out with guidelines. They're like, look, really, we don't think that you should be dating at all. But if you're going to date, have like a 6-foot buffer between you and your date, you know? Okay. And I was talking to Mitch, and Mitch was like, screw that. And I was like, man, it must have been terribly awkward. It's like, oh, you look really nice. I really like your hair. What? I said, I like your hair. Oh, no, I'm not wearing any underwear. And then the CDC came out and they were like going, you know, we don't think you should date, right, for one thing. And but if you're going to date, try not to have too much physical contact with your date, you know? Try not to touch too much. Just try not to, don't have too much contact, just the tip. Just the tip. This is very, very awkward. I remember it was very strange though. For like the first month, my wife and I, you know, we were like totally at each other's throats. You know, we were like, I knew that she was just looking at me going, do I have to spend the rest of my life with this guy? Jesus Christ. You know, and I knew I was getting on her nerves when she was like wandering around the apartment with a steak knife. Then I knew that was a good time for me to take the dog for a walk. And she would get on my nerves too, you know, the same thing, you know. She's always telling me to take out the trash. Can you take out the trash? You're not busy, you're not doing anything. Can you take out the trash? It's like, you know, oh honey, can you take out the trash? Finally, I just picked her up and I carried her off to the curb.
I get it.
She was not amused. No. Yeah, it was weird though. We didn't see anyone for like a month, right? And then we're sitting there on the couch watching Judge Judy, and there was a knock at the door, and we're like, who the hell is that? And I go out to the window and I look out, and there's my mom. She's standing there like with a suitcase. And I'm like, I go to the door, I'm like, Mom, what's going on? Is everything okay? She goes, well, Tommy, I just thought that if we have to quarantine, we should probably do it as a family. So that happened. And then, but I love my mom, you know, she's a free spirit. She cannot be contained, you know. She's like, and as soon as she walks in the door, it's like, no drinking, no smoking, no doing drugs, no nudity in the house. I mean, she wasn't following any of our rules. But I was gonna say, is there anybody from the DEA here tonight? Anybody? All right, good. Yeah. My mom's a drug dealer. We used to have this house in San Francisco, and she used to deal pot. We had this gate, and all the hippies would line up on the gate, right? And they would give a password, and they'd slip in the gate, and they'd get their weed. And back then, there were lids of grass. Does anybody know what a lid of grass is? Yeah, in our house, it was 2 handfuls. That was a lid. Anyway, they get their grass, they'd pop out the side gate. It was a pretty good system. And then one weekend, my mom ran out of baggies, and her friend Nancy comes over with a case of surgical gloves, right? And they took the weed and they stuck them in the surgical gloves and they sold those. And it was known as the 5-finger lid. It was very famous throughout the Bay Area. Give me 5, high five. That's where that shit came from. In fact, that was the password at the gate. Give me 5, high five. My mom is a trip, man. Legendary. And then so she ran out of the surgical gloves, and then Nancy comes over with a case of condoms. And they took the grass and they stuffed them in the condoms, right? And they sold those. and that was known as the 5-inch dicklet. And then I don't know, it didn't really go over as well. And I never understood that because, well, I mean, you can smoke the bejesus out of yourself and then you can practice safe sex. It was a win-win, really. But nobody was practicing safe sex back then, right? I mean, safe sex was like not having sex in a moving vehicle. That would be safe sex, right? Or safer sex. That would be safer sex. Hey, you guys, thanks a lot for coming out and supporting comedy. I'm Tom Kearney. We'll see you next time.